All right, welcome to Halitics. I'm Hal Ginsberg for the Free for All. Definitely want to talk to you today. I was so glad when Andy called in towards the end of yesterday's program. It did prolong it. I think it was a good show. I think you should check it out if you get a chance. It's the one with the caption, the cover about anti-racists and what they get wrong. And I thought it was a very good spirited conversation. I want to be real clear about one thing. I definitely think we should talk about anything that's on your mind. I write in the description, no third rails. I'll give you my viewpoint. It often irritates people that I think I want to work with to make a better world and who I think have similar goals, but often we have very different strategies and tactics how to get there. And I think that's what we have to discuss. We have to debate, because if we're going to, not to put too fine a point on it, save or preserve what's beautiful on our planet for future generations, let's face it, it's beset. It's under fire. If we're going to save what we can, we have to join together. We have to unite. That's why I was so excited about the man whose image is on the screen as you're looking at it on your YouTube video right now. When he announced he was running for president, I had no qualms. I would have no qualms about voting for Dr. Cornel West for president. He has made a lifetime, a career of fighting for poor, struggling, working people. And that is exactly who I want in power. So he is my guy. And that hasn't changed. But I have concerns right now about the direction his campaign is going from a strategic viewpoint, not from a policy. Now, for me, policy is always king. Policy matters more than anything else. When I decide whom I'm going to vote for, the first thing I care about, the first thing I look at is policy. It's not the only thing. Track record is important. Not reputation for honesty and integrity, but actual honesty and integrity. Are there conflicting interests? Have they, are they hypocritical in their record? Those are all important. But what's most important to me is what policies have they espoused throughout their career and have they demonstrated they're committed to? And no one in the current campaign, no one who's announced running for president, comes close, in my opinion, to Dr. Cornel West. I know some of you like Marianne Williamson, some of you like RFK Jr., some like Biden. I don't think any of them hold a candle, if you want my honest opinion. And I always give it, and I've also given my rationale for supporting Dr. West. But right now, I'm a little bit troubled. I'm troubled that he has changed horses twice now. First announcing that he was going to run on the People's Party, which isn't really a party as far as I know. They've never had a candidate run. They're not on any ballots. I didn't understand that announcement at all. And he quickly corrected his course by stating he was going to run for the Green Party nomination. I thought that made all the sense in the world. I do believe in political parties. I know some of you don't. I think political parties are critically important for several different reasons. One, they provide shorthand. If you announce that you're running as a member of a particular party, then we know some things about you. We don't know a ton necessarily, but we know some things about you. If you announce that you're running as a Democrat, well, you're probably pro-choice. That'll be the first thing that I would think of. There are very few issues where every Democrat agrees, but right now it is the pro-choice, pro-reproductive freedom party, reproductive rights party. So that's important. There are many other areas where I really don't know where you stand. I don't know where you stand on globalism, although most Democrats now seem to be supporters of globalism. And I think that's a mistake, certainly when it comes to the movement of capital. But at least we know a little bit about you. You announce that you're running as a Green. There's a lot of variations among Greens. They don't hold their candidates to account any better, really, than the Democrats or the Republicans do. But we do have some ideas what you stand for. The more parties there are, the more different options that you have when you go into a voting booth, the more we'll know who somebody is by virtue of what party they're running on, what ticket. So when Dr. West said he was running as a Green, I was excited because I have great respect for many Green Party members. David Cobb is one of my, I believe, I don't know how he sees me, but I perceive him to be one of the greatest allies of poor, struggling, working people there is. We've had Andy Ellis on our show several times, the Baltimore Green Party. There's nobody I have more faith and more trust in, who I view with more integrity. Yes, we disagree strongly on whether reparations should be at the forefront of the Green Party movement and the Green Party platform. We have a strong disagreement. But that, his belief in centering reparations doesn't, in my view, detract in any way from his commitment to poor, struggling, and working people. We have a strong disagreement on strategy. Similarly, my view on Dr. West. He is for reparations. That's not where I would, center my campaign. I wouldn't even make it part of my campaign. But I'm totally good with it because he recognizes race as part of the class war. And his first priority is poor, struggling, and working people, period. So I'm good with that. I don't understand the decision not to run as a Green. I think it makes your campaign, I think it makes the campaign look like it doesn't know what it's doing, frankly. It does call into question, in my view, to a degree, your direction and who's running the campaign. Is this Peter Dow? Is this his influence? I don't know. I had no problem with you hiring Peter Dow, Dr. West. Some did. Some on the left thought he was a phony, a hypocrite, whatever. They pointed legitimately to his work for Hillary Clinton, which was his, one of his lowest hours, his worst moments for sure. But he had come around by 2018, 2019, certainly by 2020, endorsing Bernie for president, working with Bernie just as you have. So I was okay with that. I was fine with it. In fact, I thought maybe it was a great idea to have somebody aggressive, a take no prisoners type approach that we've seen from Dow would be perfect for a campaign, Dr. West. But whoever made that call to back away from the Green Party, I think it was a mistake. And in the end, it's the buck stops with you. You're the candidate. I don't. Maybe Peter Dow went to you and said, "We've got to get rid of the Greens. We got to step away from the Greens." So that was, in my view, a terrible mistake by Peter Dow. But it was your decision to, go along with them. I mean, you could have said no. You could have said, "I don't like it. We're not going to do that." So you're responsible in the end, Dr. West, and I think it was a big mistake, and I'll tell you why in several different reasons. One, the Green Party, unlike the People's Party, and yes, it was a mistake for you to announce that you were running on the People's Party ballot, but or for their nomination. I think they just had endorsed you so that you would have been the People's Party candidate, but there's no People's Party. I think maybe one of your biggest concerns about the Green Party is that you would have to compete for their nomination. I get that. You don't want to have to compete for the Green Party nomination. You want to be free to focus solely on the Republican and Democratic candidates. And then, of course, RFK Jr. just announced he's running as an independent. So maybe you were a little concerned, what if I don't get the Green Party nomination? Some of the Green Party activists may view me as a carpetbagger. After all, I've supported Democrats like Bernie, although he's really an independent, but running as a Democrat in the primary. I've supported Bernie in the past, so maybe they won't, maybe they won't pick me. Okay, well, I guess that's a risk you run. I don't think there was much chance you wouldn't get the nod from the Green Party, given your consistent championing of the issues that are most important to Greens, like myself. I think you would have gotten it. And they have a lot of infrastructure. Maybe your concern is you wouldn't be on every ballot. The Green Party has not managed to get on the ballot in every state. But that, to me, would have given you an opportunity to run as an independent in those states where the Green Party is not on the ballot. But you made your road a lot harder because now you will not have the support of the Green Party to get you on the ballot. And I think that was a mistake. I think that you made it more difficult for you. And I'll tell you another problem I think that that decision calls to my mind is it raises in my mind how committed you are to building a true progressive movement. Campaigns end. That, our evolution slogan, our motto, whatever, campaigns end, revolutions endure. That's why it's called Our Revolution. Well, campaigns end, but parties endure. And if you can build a successful, meaningful, powerful, even at a local or county or city level or, large city, county, whatever, state level, that's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment. So I'm on a lot of levels upset by this decision. Will I still vote for you? Probably, yes. I don't see myself voting for anybody else, but it makes it tougher. It makes it tougher for me to support, to get involved in your campaign as well, because I viewed it as a twofer. I work for the Greens. I work for Dr. West, not work, for money. Although I wouldn't be averse to some type of job on your campaign, of course, but work, by my volunteering, by my using my shoe leather, exercising my index finger to call people. I don't know, do people still use their index finger to call people? I guess you could do that. So, I'm a little bit bereft. Are you watching Halitics? I'm Hal. Click like, click subscribe, bottom right of your screen. Let's get to this video here. Here's your announcement. This is also what really, I guess, confuses. Is that the right word? Or I don't know. I mean, I'm perplexed. You write, people are hungry for change. This is what came out yesterday. People are hungry for change. They want good policies over partisan politics. Agreed. We need to break the grip of the duopoly. Yes, we do. And give power. Now, the duopoly is the Republicans and Democrats. It doesn't have anything to do with the Green Party. They're trying to break the grip of the duopoly and give power to the people. I'm running as an independent candidate for president of the U.S. to end the iron grip of the ruling class and ensure true democracy. Join as volunteer, donate, sign up. All right, Cornel West 2024, and I'm going to go to that website. I haven't done it, to be honest with you. But let's play the video. But there's nothing in there. He doesn't even mention the Green Party. He doesn't even mention a change in course, a course correction, if you will. He just says he's running as an independent, which is different than where he was before. Let's play the video and see if we learn anything from it. And see if I can figure out how to play it, because this is kind of weird. I'm doing this in a different way, and I think I got it. Yeah, here we go. Here we go, folks. Let's hope you can hear it too.
Says we need you to be part and parcel of wrestling with this corporate duopoly, this two-party system that impedes, it gets in the way of the unleashing of the kind of policies of abolishing poverty and homelessness, of dealing with working wages, cutting back on militarism, and most importantly, trying to ensure that the best of who we are as a people can be more manifest, can be more concrete, because the crisis is real and these catastrophes are bombarding us. Please come join us.
All right, so not one word about the Green Party.
We need you.
I thought I had stopped that. Not one word about the Green Party in that video, or the change, right, away from it. He says he's running as an independent, but we don't hear a rationale. And I think that's a lack of transparency that troubles me about the campaign. So I support Dr. West. I don't know, what is he? He wants to call me his brother. I would be incredibly honored and touched by that. I think he's precious. I think the way he describes fellow human beings, all of us, as precious is a beautiful thing. I love his message. But I want some kind of consistency and a confidence that the campaign knows what it's doing. And I have to say that confidence has been shaken. All right, 240-363-7190. It's a free-for-all. Please give me a call if you can. I'd love to talk to you. That's why I do this. I don't do this for any other reason but to have a dialogue, a colloquy, a back and forth, a discussion with you. That's why I was so excited, so happy to have Andy join me yesterday and have a spirited, but I think truly good faith disagreement, about how to move forward, how to win. And that's what this is all about. All right, I want to, it is a free for all, so lots of different topics we can get to really anything you want. I was really intrigued. Now, I'm sure you know if you watch my video cast, my live streams, that I probably do watch more of the Hill Rising and maybe Bad Faith podcast with Briahna Joy Gray, because those are pretty much I believe, the two best outlets on the internet, the two best YouTube streamers. And of course, there's a lot of overlap because Briahna Joy Gray, who hosts Bad Faith, who founded it, is also co-host with Robbie Suave of Bad Faith. Although they have other guest hosts, and we'll actually meet one of them today. I haven't played his video before. I haven't played him before, Shermichael. So I want to play something from them because, I don't always agree, certainly don't. And I thought this story totally caught my attention for all sorts of reasons. You can see the caption there, outflanked. This was, I believe, Wednesday when Code Pink, and by the way, Medea Benjamin, one of the co-founders of Code Pink, has been on this program. She's a great progressive activist and somebody, again, I have amazing faith in. So let's play a little bit of this. I'm going to interrupt it a few times, but Code Pink on Capitol Hill protesting funding for the Ukraine war. I'm with them 100%, of course, as you well know if you watch any of my videos. Here is Rising the Hill, though.
Anti-war protesters with the organization Code Pink are accusing independent Senator from Vermont, Bernie Sanders, of having them arrested after they staged a demonstration inside his Senate office yesterday. Approximately 11 protesters were handcuffed and led away by Capitol Police yesterday after holding signs emblazoned with Sanders' own previous anti-war sentiments.
All right, I'm going to stop it right there. So I'm just not certain what really happened. I'm trying to find out. It is absolutely true that the Code Pink activists were arrested outside. See how it says arrested outside Sanders' office? They also attribute the arrest to Bernie or his office. I mean, I don't know that Bernie picked up the phone and said, lock these guys up. But Code Pink says it was Sanders. It came from Sanders' office, the call. Now, I need confirmation of that. I think it would be absolutely wrong if Bernie did that or if his office did that. And if some staffer or an intern or page or someone in Sanders' office did that, there should be significant negative consequences for whoever did that. They should be fired. That's absolutely anti-democratic. This is the place, this is the people's house. Well, it's the Senate, so it's not the people's house, but it's still the people's house too, or whatever. And you should be allowed to protest. This is exactly what I thought Bernie supported. He has not been on board the pro-peace movement of late. But I don't know that Bernie is the one who made the call. And it's a little bit misleading, or it's a lot of bit misleading, because the guest host there, I don't know his name, said, that's not Shermichael Finley. The guest host said, and he's a Republican. They always have a conservative, the so-called conservative, so-called progressive. So in the videos I'm going to show today, the progressive will be Briahna Joy Gray. I don't know who that guy was, but Shermichael Finley, I think, is his name. Will be on. I know his first name is Shermichael. I think the last is Finley. We'll hear from him in a little bit. I thought his commentary was very powerful, and he is a Republican strategist, as a matter of fact. In any event, the activists were not arrested inside Sanders' office. If they were arrested inside Sanders' office, I would say, okay, it was Sanders, right? I mean, nobody else would call the Capitol Police except for Sanders people if they're in his office. Now, if they're in his office and he says, get out, I'm sick of this. You've been here for an hour. I've entertained you. I've talked to you. I've listened to what you have to say. I got to get to work. Please leave. I would understand why he would, and they refuse. I'd get it. But they're not inside the office when they're being arrested. They're outside the office. So I'm not prepared, as everyone else seems to be, to say it was on Bernie that they were arrested. I think we need confirmation. I'm not all about always, the outrage factor. Let's be sure we know what we're beefing about. Let's be sure we know that the people that we're complaining about really did what we say they did before we attack them, especially someone like Bernie, who, of course, is not above reproach, is not above questioning. But he has built, let's face it, over his very long and mostly reproachless, beyond reproach career, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. Until I have some confirmation that he's the one who sicked the police on these brave anti-war activists, I'm not going to buy it. Or I'm certainly going to be dubious, skeptical. That said, if he did it, it's really bad, Bernie. Not a good thing. It's not a good look. These are your people. These are who have had your back forever. And now you're turning your back. You've voted against bloated Pentagon budgets. You've spoken out against endless war. And this is exactly what we're facing right now in Ukraine. You call the police on these protesters, that's a very, very big problem. Now, my view is, and this is another saying I got as an organizer of our revolution, no permanent allies, no permanent enemies. I don't view Bernie as any kind of a permanent ally by any stretch of the imagination. But I give him a little more rope, a little more benefit of the doubt, shall we say, than I would others based solely on his mostly impeccable record. All right, there's more to this video. Bernie's not the only member of Congress who is seen in it. So let's get some more. This is the Hill Rising. Here is but you see the Twitter video of a Code Pink activist being led away by the Capitol Police.
Friend of the show, Sabrina Salvati, weighed in on the crackdown, tweeting, quote, Bernie Sanders owes everyone a refund. He should be ashamed of himself. Instead of facing those who supported his campaigns, he calls the cops on them.
All right, so I'll stop it. Yeah, Sabby Sabs. I like Sabby Sabs. She is reflexively anti-democratic. I often agree with her, much more often than not. She's a very strident opponent, shall we say, critic, I think almost always fairly, of AOC. But again, I would love to know where that actual evidence came from to conclude it was Bernie who sicked the cops on that pro-peace activist. And Sabby Sabs quotes Calla Walsh. So I don't know who that person is. Again, if this is true, it's a terrible look. Bernie is really betraying pro-peace, pro-worker, pro-working class, pro-poor, pro-struggling people, backing billions and billions and billions of dollars for endless war. It's terrible, and he has done that, but I'm not yet there that he actually sicked the cops on them. I think we need to hear from him first. All right, more from the video.
Now, over on the other side of the aisle, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene weighed in too, tweeting, the war in Ukraine must end. Today, I met brave Code Pink activists who protested for peace in Bernie Sanders' office. Peace and free speech shouldn't be a partisan issue. We don't agree on most things, but we do agree Congress should stop fueling the war in Ukraine.
All right, let me stop it right there. To me, that's an incredibly positive statement for which Congresswoman Greene deserves huzzas. It's just outstanding. No, she said we don't agree on most things, but we do agree that we should not be funding this war. How can you, I mean, I don't know how anyone could hear that and not be impressed with a congresswoman. She nails it. Now you can disagree with her on everything else, but she's right about this. And even if you think she's wrong, and we're going to hear from somebody who I think is pretty confident she's wrong in about a second. So John, thanks for calling in. Even if you think she's wrong, I mean, how boss is that a Republican joins with pro-peace activists? It's just awesome. This is what we need to do if we want to build a people's movement, is find allies where we can. John, good day. How are you today? And thank you for calling.
I'm well. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing a little bit stuffed. Well, let me say it this way. I'm a little stuffy. I don't know if you can hear it, but the nice thing about just doing programs from my home is as soon as this is over, I'll take a pill or two and a lozenge and hopefully get a nap in. Anyway, that your big mistake was asking me how I am. Thank you for calling again. What's on your mind, John?
Okay. So I don't think you can call people who are against providing Ukraine with arms pro-peace. I think we could call them pro-exploitation, pro-oppression, but we can't call them pro-peace. So
Did I use the term
premise.
pro-peace? Let me ask you this. Did I use the term pro-peace to describe Congresswoman Green? I don't think I did. If I did, I think that's a fair point. But she is pro-peace in Ukraine.
No, that's actually not a pro-peace stance.
Well, we disagree. Well, let's say we disagree on that. But explain why you don't think that it's not a pro-peace stance.
Oh, well, so these people don't have the means to fight off a bully, an oppressor. They aren't asking us to step in and put our blood and our lives on the line. They're asking us to use our infrastructure, and we have a defense infrastructure that's pretty robust. Good, bad, or whether that's good or bad is not an issue right now. The issue is, are we going to help preserve democracy, or are we going to allow authoritarians to take over a huge swath of Europe where they can go in and now control 95% of the wheat market, that at least 95% of the wheat that goes to Africa, and to have all that influence over a continent of people that, and not to mention, I'm sure a lot of that wheat goes to Europe. So so I don't mean to put everything, into an economic perspective, but when you allow oppressors to take over resources, you are allowing their power to snowball, and that is the next nail in our coffin. And I don't think politicians have done a good job of explaining this, but it's true.
So John, I think we really, really disagree. And I've had the same argument. I mean, you and I have argued this, but I've also had this disagreement, obviously, with Arlen, is I think you and Arlen present a false choice, either between giving Russia, and it's often present, I'm not saying you're doing this, and I appreciate that you didn't, at least as far as I could tell, making it very personal. Either we give the bully Putin everything he wants or we don't. But that's not, in my opinion, anywhere near the only two choices. And Code Pink isn't saying we should give Russia everything they want. And I don't know that that Marjorie Taylor Greene is either. What they're saying, and I'm just putting this on the screen right now, as an international peace organization, we call for an immediate ceasefire. That means both sides are to stop the shooting, and negotiations without preconditions. So that's what we need to do. And
So
if
how
we
do you
called
enforce
for,
that?
let me just finish one more point here.
Okay.
If we
All right.
absolutely insisted, and you can see it, if we absolutely insisted on negotiations without preconditions, and Ukraine said to Russia, we want negotiations without preconditions. We want a ceasefire right now. And Russia's response was to start was F you nuts, like in the movie Battleground about the Battle of the Bulge, then I would be more open to arguments about whether we really need to keep arming Ukraine. But no one's trying that. We're doing just the opposite.
Well, hold on. This situation that you posit has already transpired numerous times early on in this war. Ukraine went to the negotiating table in good faith several times, and the Russians just within hours would break any agreement that they ever, that they ever came up with together. And in one instance, both of the Ukrainian negotiators were poisoned.
It's true that I'll give you this. Russia has been not been by any means a pattern opponent or one that seemed willing to have these conversations. Again, though, the blame for the war is not solely on Russia. We repeatedly provoked Russia in various ways, which we've detailed. I don't want to get into that right now. And yes, Russia did seem to slap away the hand that was reached out for some kind of peace. But that was well over a year ago. And that was long before Blinken went to Finland and said early this summer that we're not going to have any talks with Russia until they withdraw from all of Ukraine. The goal was also to take control of Crimea. That's, I understand it seems like a worthy goal, but to attain that, you're going to have to kill an awful lot of people, and an awful lot of people, including women, children, civilians, are all going to be killed. That's a price I don't think we should push the Ukrainians, urge the Ukrainians, cajole the Ukrainians to keep paying.
We don't urge them. We don't coerce them. We don't push them. They ask us for these weapons. They ask us. They don't want to become part of Russia.
The president of a corrupt regime is asking us for those weapons. And again, we've made the point that we're not in a position, we're not going to even call for or suggest. And that in fact, we've said there not going to be negotiations until Russia agrees to withdraw. So you can say it's just Ukraine, but it's not Ukraine wagging the dog. It is not. We're, if anyone, driving this policy. And if we join with China, India to call for peace right now, my guess is that Russia would jump at it. But if they didn't, they didn't. They don't, they don't. But that's something we have an obligation to do, in my view, morally. I'll let you have the last word, and then if you want to move on to anything else, go ahead.
Okay. I think that your position there is very disingenuous. I think there are a lot of nuances that you deliberately leave out in order to take that so-called pro-peace stance. I don't think that the Ukrainians see ceding anything to Russia as a viable option. It is their country. It is their land to do with as they please. There are elements within that regime that are corrupt, but they are also working to rout those elements out. And it's a work in progress. And I don't believe that we should give Russia one more chance and go back to the negotiating table and give them one more chance to spit in their faces. I think Ukraine has decided that they've already had several chances, and Ukraine has decided they're not going to. That just doesn't work for them anymore. That if they want the Russians off their land, they have to kill them. And it's an unfortunate truth. And it happens. We're human beings, and that's how some of us behave. And aggressors sometimes to be exterminated. And that is just how it is. It's an ugly, ugly world that we live in. But if you want to be free, you sometimes have to kill your oppressor. And they realize that. I mean, that is the world that they live in. They are confronted with it. We're protected here by 2 large oceans and 2 friendly nations. So Americans don't have any real exposure to any existential threats to their freedom, except the Republican Party, maybe. But
All right, I'll give you raised a chuckle there, so good for you on that last comment. I said you'd get the last word. If you have anything else, go ahead. I'm not going to respond. I've made my responses to those same arguments on many occasions. There's no need for me to do it again here. Of course, I will not stop talking about the war in the long run, but in the short run, I will.
There's one other thing I'd like to comment on, and that is I saw Instagram posts from Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and she says that during an impeachment hearing, somebody presented a text message as evidence, and it was later found out by digital forensic experts that the text message was photoshopped. Somebody wiped out the text in a little text balloon, and when I say somebody, I mean a Republican, and then submitted it as evidence. I'm trying to think, have you ever heard of a Democrat doing something like that?
Well, the entire Russiagate was fabricated. It came out of the fevered imaginations of the Clinton campaign.
Oh, really? So any congressional hearings regarding that, you're saying Democrats
the Steele dossier, which underlay that prosecution, that investigation was complete BS. So that was completely fabricated and presented. That's a perfect example. There's lots of times you can come up with plenty of examples. I'm not defending, by the way, I want to be really clear here. I'm not defending what the Republicans did. And you probably, if you listen, I think you do. I know you're a good listener and I really appreciate and watcher. I don't talk a lot about the claims, or, some people do go on and on about how bad Biden is and how corrupt he is. I have a lot of problems with Joe Biden. I don't talk about the Hunter Biden stuff very much. I mention now that because I don't think there's a smoking gun. I haven't seen it. And in fact, I think I said that just the other day. I think I went through that the other day. I said it's really hard to come up with, any evidence that, no one seems to care about presenting evidence that's real, that's admissible. The problem I have is that when you look at the New York Times or Washington Post, which are defending Biden, I don't feel like they're really worthy, very trustworthy either. And a lot of what they present is rhetoric. But that said, I don't go on about this because I think it's made up and it's retaliation for the Democrats' investigations, their endless investigations of Trump. So, and also I think there were certain things Trump did that were certainly worthy of very close investigation. It just wasn't Russiagate. Certainly the violation of the emoluments clause, locking up people at the border, those could have been, in my view, potentially impeachable offenses. It just wasn't, those aren't BS like the Russiagate. But the thing is, if you're going to lock up Trump, or you're going to impeach Trump for locking people up at the border, what do you do with Obama for droning U.S. citizens without due process?
What exactly was in the Steele dossier that is not true?
The whole thing was not true. They had some sort of tape or something. It was complete BS. He wrote the whole thing, John. Steele just made it up. There's some sort of tape. Complete BS. Nothing like that existed. That the Russians had something on Trump. No one's come up with anything that the Russians had on Trump.
Oh, absolutely they have. Trump has borrowed money from Russian oligarchs.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He owes people money. That's something they have on him. So he borrowed money.
Absolutely. Oh, well, not only that, I mean, the fact that he's done business with people who, are very autocratic.
Everyone knows that. Of
their
course,
ideology
it wasn't hidden that he was doing business in Russia. That was known. Come on, John.
Well,
look,
you know what?
can we please
through that again?
Can we unite in support of candidates who truly are on the side of the American people? That's, I think, what I'm trying to do.
What happens
here.
when they don't
And
win
policies.
the primary, Hal? What happens? Absolutely. What happens when they don't win the primary? Then what?
Then you have to make it. Then you have a tough decision. Then you have a very tough decision.
It's not really a tough decision.
But if you want to criticize Trump, that's fine. But criticize him for the things we know he did. And also be honest about some of the positives. For example, he did start the process, not in an effective way, I'll grant you, but he started the process of reversing offshoring with tariffs. He also did negotiate the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was exactly the right thing to do. And he has spoken out against the war in Ukraine, and he spoke out against the war in Iraq. I think it was 2005 at the latest. So if you're going to bash Trump, at least acknowledge the positives.
Hey, Hal. So if he did a good job negotiating that Afghanistan withdrawal, why did some of our troops die in an
I didn't say he did a good job, but he didn't execute it either. And the important thing was that we got out, is that we're no longer there. Now, that was a positive thing that he did. And it was a direct response to the really bad thing that Obama did when he pivoted to Afghanistan. All right, I've been talking a lot. You took your time, and I really appreciate it to call me. So again, John, final word, and then I want to move on because I got a couple other stories I want to get to, and I don't have that much more time today.
The final word is I'm going to read the Steele dossier again, and I'll call you back and tell you what I think.
That's awesome.
I don't necessarily believe that what's in it is false.
Okay.
But it's been so long since I've read it that I need to go back and brush up on it again.
Thank you. I appreciate the call and the open-mindedness you just demonstrated. Thank you, John. If anyone else wants to call, and I'll try to get you on today. As I mentioned, I don't have a ton more time, and I want to get to just a couple more. Oh, yeah. So the Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, because so I thought her statement was just absolutely spot on. And I want to get to, let me see if I can get to the right spot in that video. And I also was looking to make sure my levels, so I can see my levels go up and down, which is really good. That means the mic reads them. But if they're in white, then that means you're not hearing me. And I have muted myself a couple of times in the past few days, so I'd be flapping my gums and nothing's coming out of my mouth. I know probably what a lot of you think is always the case, but at least nothing of sense. But at least there was noise, there was sound, and there wasn't yesterday. So for a good chunk of time. So I hopefully have corrected that. Now I want to get to a little more of that Taylor Greene clip, because I really felt like Briahna Joy just really missed the boat here, and I was not happy about it. So let me see if I can get this here. So here, let's get back to that video. And John, again, really mega props for calling 240-363-7190. If someone else wants to join me, and please click like, please click subscribe. Back to the video. Let's see, and I'm going to unmute the video too. Look at that. I remember to do that. Here we go.
And that they don't see there to be a lot of unity of interest there. Although on the narrow issue of Ukraine, I think there is unity of interest. And friend of the show, Max Blumenthal, tweeted out that it was a good thing that, Marjorie Taylor Greene is even willing to perhaps cross the aisle, whichever way you want to see it, and come together on this issue of funding to Ukraine. And I agree with that.
Now that's, really a big deal. 100%. Yes, that is unity between left and right. And again, Taylor Greene said, we don't agree on a lot, but we agree that we shouldn't be funding this Ukraine war. And even if you disagree with her, even if you think we should be like John does, well, you know, I admire her willingness. She's bucking her party, by the way. That's certainly not what the Republicans want. Remember, what's his name? Kevin McCarthy was booted out of the speakership because he had that deal. It looks like he definitely did with Biden to bring back the funding. So Taylor Greene, who had, by the way, supported McCarthy, she was on his side. She's bucking McCarthy here. Why can't our progressive Democrats ever buck the Pelosi's and the Hoyers and the Jeffries? Heck, they can't even vote against them for speakership. If you're a Republican, if you believe in that rather, in many ways, intellectually bankrupt ideology in general, but you got to be proud of some of your electeds.
But I do think it's really worth noting how she responded to a question about what the military budget should actually be, whether you're actually willing to cut it, or if this is a very narrow criticism of a war that in many ways has been branded, not wrongly, but been branded as Biden's war. And some Republicans...
Let me stop it there for a second. So she's saying, hey, maybe Taylor Greene is good on this issue, but she's really bad on funding the military. She supports bloated military budgets, just like the Democrats do. So, okay, yes, she's bad on a lot of issues. As she herself said, we don't agree on a lot. But you know what? Take your win, Briahna Joy Gray. Take the positive out of this. You're not getting that from any Democrat. You're not getting any pro-peace position from any Democrat. So at least Taylor Greene is saying, let's stop this. Let's stop this insane funding of this war, this proxy war, which is exactly what it is. We're testing our materiel. I know John sees it as some kind of, I know, and I'm not trying to be disparaging. I know he views it as freedom fighting. I get that. But what we're doing is killing people. It's destroying a country. Putin is not Hitler. Putin doesn't have that kind of power. His country is small and weak. It's just not as small and weak as Ukraine. So we need, as Code Pink says, demand a ceasefire. Stop funding this war. Call for an immediate ceasefire, no preconditions.
I think are opposing it not because they have any real anti-war bona fides, right, but because it's a way to ding Biden.
All right, so Gray is concerned. I hope you caught that. It was kind of quick. She speaks quickly, or they probably sped up the, I'll take her off because that face is a little bit scary the way it's kind of frozen in that image. But she's saying the problem here is, oh, and by the way, I know my face is scary in any position. What she's saying is we can't trust Marjorie Taylor Greene. Her impulses aren't good. She's not doing it for the right reasons. Her intention isn't something we can be proud of or view as honorable. Again, I don't care. I care about policy. I don't care about the motives. I mean, motives matter on a lot of times. I wouldn't vote for Marjorie Taylor Greene because of all the areas where she's bad, including her general support for bloated Pentagon budgets and militarism abroad. Those are really bad things. But she's right here. She's right here. And it's a really important thing to be right about. So I'm taking the lap. I'm taking my victory lap. All right. 240-363-7190. 240-363-7190. 240-363-7190. Good news on the job front. And this isn't being spun as totally good news by media. So big jump in jobs, 336,000 jobs in September. And it's not, I guess that's the most since January. There's a huge jump in January. But this isn't being spun as completely positive. And the reason is I think some economists are afraid of overheating economy, inflation. There's inflation right now, let me tell you. The way you address inflation is you have antitrust actions against the oligarchs, against the oligopolies. Is the wrong term, oligarch. Well, the oligopolies are controlled by the oligarchs. You know, the areas where you only have a small number of players, just a few retailers, a few big retailers who can set prices, who don't have to, compete against others to provide you the best product at the lowest price, but actually have price setting power. And what we're seeing is jobs added, but we're not seeing the kind of wage increases we need. So this is a good thing. The more demand there is for labor, the more prices, the price of labor will go up. But again, just as the oligopolists can set the price of the goods you purchase at the store, they can also set the price of labor. They're not competing that aggressively, trust me, for labor by raising prices. In other words, by raising. But all that said, I'm glad that more people are working, but they need to be making more money, and they're not. Here's just a little more on the job growth number. Double economists' expectations serve as a confirmation of labor market's vitality and overall hardiness of an economy facing challenges from a variety of forces. So there you go. An unemployment rate remains very, very low. It hasn't really been this low since the early 60s. The differences in the early 60s, wages were really high relative. The workers' wages were really high relative to executives. Now they're not. All right, so let's go back. I want to, I'm centering for sure the Hill Rising, and because I think they did I was really taken. I didn't agree with Briahna Joy Gray's criticism or her, kind of hedging or caveats with regard to Marjorie Taylor Greene. I agree she's right. Marjorie Taylor Greene is hardly a progressive ally, except when it comes to Ukraine. And you know what? No one says she is, except when it comes to Ukraine. So take it, Briahna Joy. Don't look that gift horse in the mouth. So back to the video. So I was really taken by what I believe, again, I'm going to say his name, I think it's Shermichael Finley, had to say here. Let's hear it.
And I oftentimes read the comments, and because I'm always curious to see what everyday people are thinking.
Remember,
people who are out there busting their butts
strategist
to take care of themselves and their families. And people are working hard. And what I'm finding, Bree, even on this show, when I look at what our viewers are saying, Republicans and Democrats alike are tired of working so hard and barely making it. They look at what's going on in Washington, D.C., which we saw yesterday, and this craziness. You look at wealthy individuals, and they're gaining more. The politicians obviously don't appear to care. They're more concerned about the individuals who give to them. And people are saying, what about me? We're giving hundreds of billions to Ukraine. We're letting hundreds of thousands into the country. And then you have corporations making a lot of money, and people are working 40 hours a week. And if they're doing overtime, maybe 60 hours a week. to still barely be able to afford rent, to still barely to be able to afford groceries. And if you do have a car, you're lucky if you can freaking pay gas prices. And if you live in California, you're probably paying about $5 for gas. And so you look at the culmination of all of these things, Bree, and I think this is one thing that could actually bring left-leaning and right-leaning people together to say, look, we may disagree on a whole lot of things, but we're kind of all getting screwed here.
All right, so I really appreciated that. I thought that was spot on, and I almost interrupted. Let me just get this to look better. There we go. I almost interrupted it when he started talking about the immigrants coming and flooding into the country, but I decided to let him continue. Obviously, I don't agree with everything. This guy's a Republican. He's a Republican strategist. So, you know, the people that trying to get into the United States or who have gotten into the United States are desperate for a better life. And a big reason for that is because of our policies have made it unlivable in many parts of Central and South America. Our policies are responsible for that. So even beyond the humanity, that we have a duty as human beings to help those who are desperate, those who are fleeing from poverty or political violence. Even beyond that, we have an added responsibility because we're, in part, the reason for these people's problems, their pain. I mean, that reason they pack up and come here is because they can't survive in Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador and Venezuela. And why is that? Because of American policy in large part. So I have a problem, obviously, with what Shermichael Finley said. I hope that's his name. I know it's Shermichael is the first name. About the immigrants. But the broader message is so important. Workers are struggling. America is more unaffordable than ever, notwithstanding the very low unemployment rate. He's a Republican strategist. He just told you this is a way to bring left and right together. It is the economy, stupid, as James Carville said, but it's the economy for poor, struggling, and working people that we must address, the life that they lead, the lives that they lead. And by doing that, that's how we can build that true, progressive, not utopia, we'll never get to a utopia, but to a world where pretty much everyone has enough and no one has too much. And with that, I'm going to end the program. Actually, I lied to you. One other thing I want to remark about what Finley said there. The billions, the hundreds of billions to Ukraine are another factor that are driving the anger, the resentment, the desperation of so many working people, and why they are ready to join a true progressive economic populist campaign or party, which I would have hoped Dr. West would have been the Green Party. The war is not popular. Funding the war is not popular, notwithstanding the certitude that so many so-called liberals have that this is the right thing, the moral thing. It's not popular. A pro-peace, pro-economic justice for working people campaign. That's what we're waiting for. I hope Dr. West is able to provide us that. And on that note, you all have a great weekend. I'll see you on Monday with Arlen.